Hey guys, what is up? This is Chris here on HaloFollower, and thank you so much for joining me again here on the Halo Club, a Halo podcast where we bring your comments that you posted in the comment section on videos or the channel or Facebook here on the big screen so we can have a discussion. So this is always really fun, and I always love replying directly to y'all's comments, but we actually have a couple other things I wanted to talk about first, which is Halo Recruit, a side VR Halo experience that we're going to be talking about, as well as Halo Wars 2 Awakening the Nightmare DLC, my thoughts on it, about the Flood returning, the campaign gameplay, my thoughts about the story, the new Flood forms, and a conclusion about the whole DLC, and what I honestly think about it. And I'm really excited to share my thoughts because I've just been dying to talk about it to somebody, and no IRL friends I have actually play Halo. So this is all fun, and I'm super excited to share this. So let's get into it. Halo Recruit. What is Halo Recruit? Well, I was actually pretty dang surprised. We actually posted a video. Halo Recruit announced it almost has 100,000 views, and I was just a little bit surprised by that. But Halo Recruit is actually pretty insignificant on the, at least looking at it as just a VR experience for 5 minutes, because that's what it is. It's not actually a game or even a side part of a game or whatever. It's actually just a 5-minute Halo experience of messing with some models and lore and learning about some stuff, maybe a warthog and standing next to an elite. So really basic stuff like that, and it only lasts a few minutes. I mean, they described it as a 5-minute experience, so it's definitely going to be underwhelming, I'm sure, but this is actually pretty big news, and I don't think people are really looking at this as big news because, again, at the front, if you just judge it by a 5-minute Halo experience, you're going to be like, okay, that's nothing. But big picture here, it shows that 343 Industries are present. They're present with what's happening in the video game industry. And sure, they're not the first company to make a big, AAA VR experience, but they're definitely doing it. And a lot of companies aren't doing that yet. And that is super exciting because it shows that the people at 343 Industries, like them or hate them, they are at least up to date with what's happening in the video game world, in the industry. And they're not making a big VR experience, and I doubt that they have anything planned for the future because, quite honestly, VR is still like too expensive, honestly, for most people to buy. I mean, we're talking about hundreds and hundreds of dollars. I mean, you could buy like almost 3 Xbox Ones or 3 PS4s for one VR, depending on where you buy, that is. I know some of like the higher models have like very high prices, but my point here is that it's not mainstream yet. All right, so they're not going to make a VR experience that's all about Halo, let alone exclusive to Halo. But this does imply that perhaps they are tinkering with making maybe the older Halos VR compatible. Maybe not even that, because again, it's so early in. What they're doing is basically pioneering the VR world. I mean, they're adding to it. So that's what makes this so exciting, that Halo is becoming a part of that, evolution of gaming. And maybe 10 years from now, we'll be like, oh yeah, I remember Halo Recruit. I mean, maybe not many of us will be like, oh my gosh, I remember that. But hopefully you know what I'm trying to say is that that's sort of like the first Halo, real legit Halo VR experience is coming out, I think 2 weeks from now. So, even though it is insignificant, I think that it shows real promise that 343 might give VR a chance in the next 5 to 10 years, if 343 is still working on Halo, that is. So I'm just so excited to see what they will do, and perhaps because they are just tinkering with VR, maybe they might do a little bit more than tinkering and make a cool side Halo experience. There isn't many great VR games I've seen so far. I may be wrong. There's probably a lot of cool things out there, but there's only a few that I've seen that really look fun, and it would be so cool. It would be so awesome, guys. Imagine this. What if Halo is like one of the first legit things that dives into the VR world, that makes VR like a big thing? I think to a degree, Halo was one of the big things that made FPS games what they are now, and they inspired a lot of developers. I think it was one of the foundational elements for bringing a lot of people to console. I know I would have never bought a console, at least as early as I did, if I had not played Halo. That's what got me into it. I bought my Xbox. I bought 2 Xboxes before just because I could play Halo. And before that, I was a big Star Wars fan. So this is really cool to see that maybe Halo could do the same thing they did with Xbox with VR. Maybe it's a possibility. Maybe it's a long shot and improbable, but I like to imagine, I like to be optimistic. I think you guys know this, but that would be really, really cool. So moving on to Halo Wars 2 Awakening the Nightmare DLC. My oh my. So gonna say right now, this is cool. I'm really grateful for 343 Industries for giving, Halo Wars a shot. All right. So I haven't really expressed my gratitude because I don't know why I haven't, but Halo Wars 2 sold, or the first Halo Wars sold less than, I believe, Halo 3 ODST. I think it sold like 3 times less as copies as Halo Reach. Yet we didn't see any, follow-up or inspiration side Halo game for Halo Reach. There could have been one, something about Harvest that would have been maybe a potentially great Halo game, but they didn't go that way. They didn't go with another ODST game like Halo 5 ODST. They went with Halo Wars 2, and I think it makes perfect sense. I think the original Halo Wars 2 game, besides the Awakening the Nightmare DLC, made perfect sense for the series. And with that being said, bringing the Flood back right now also makes perfect sense, because there's I've talked about it. I've beat this horse to death with talking about how Halo 6 will involve the Flood and Cortana, and I love this topic, and I think that it's so great that the Flood are returning now instead of later or before, and this is exciting. So with that being said, let's talk about Awakening the Nightmare. I love the DLC. I love it so much. I am so grateful the Flood's returning, and out of all the things that 343 has done, I really do have to say, and it might be too early to say this, but I'm really because look, Halo has taken this grim kind of dark mood since Halo 4, since 343 Industries took over. I don't know if you guys noticed, but the maps, the vibe, the overall tone and narrative of the entire Halo story has been one of kind of a depressing nature, and it's been kind of dark, really. Just look at the cutscenes. You can see that they purposely made them more grim looking, and everything just seems a little bit more, depressing and serious than maybe the other games before it. Maybe Bungie didn't do a great job at doing that, but I think the narrative, the people in charge of, running Halo and everything has greatly changed since Bungie left, right? So I think it makes sense that the Flood are returning, because if they're really trying to make a serious, creepy story with this dark mood, which, by the way, I don't really like, but it makes more sense if there's actually a reason why it's like that, and the Flood kind of justifies. I guess what I'm saying here is that the Flood justifies 343's narrative on the story. The Flood, in a sense, makes 343 Industries work on Halo and a lot of the negatives kind of positives. It irons things out. It makes things make more sense, I think, is what I'm trying to say. So the Flood returning, this is epic because of that reason. It makes sense now. 343 Industries and what they've been doing with the story makes sense now. I don't know if they've done it on purpose. Maybe they have, maybe they haven't, whatever. But if they involve the Flood in Halo 6 with Master Chief in the dark narrative that they've been doing, I want to push it anymore, 343. But, if they are trying to still do this dark narrative in Halo 6, which, by the way, they need to have the art style. I haven't really talked about the art style much ever, but use the narrative or the art style in Halo Wars 2. I love the art style in Halo Wars 2. They need to bring that into Halo 6. Screw it if it's inconsistent with the overall cutscenes. I honestly, I don't care. I just want to see the old art style. And honestly, I like the old narrative too. But if they're gonna keep it the same, they might as well have the Flood in there too, right? So let's talk about the campaign and the story. So honestly, what did I think of the campaign? I thought that the campaign was actually really fun, like the actual gameplay part, because it showed at a lot of moments, it really did show how the Flood are back, and they're back with a vengeance. That we haven't actually ever experienced the Flood on a mass scale like we have with this DLC. We haven't seen entire waves overrun soldiers before. We just haven't seen that before. We haven't actually got a legitimate cutscene with the Flood. Now, there's a couple moments where we see the Flood in Halo 2 or Halo 3. There's, they're in the background or doing something just for a few moments, but nothing legitimate. There's never been a real Flood fight. Maybe the Gravemind Flood scene, but even that isn't very really what I'm talking about. I'm so grateful that that's one of the big checklists that's kind of been checked off. Okay, we got a real Flood cutscene now, and that's really cool, and it shows that maybe 343 is trying to fill those holes. Maybe they're trying to make sense of it all. And the flood in the campaign, there were so many moments where I was like, oh my gosh, they have surrounded me. They have surrounded, like I have to retreat. And it was one of those things that I feel like we, at least myself, when I play Halo in the past 5 years, don't experience as much as I would like to, because there's just so much that has changed with Halo, and maybe with myself too. Maybe I just don't know how to enjoy games and accept them how they are. And of course, I've been a Halo fan my entire life, so my perspective is skewed, but it's just one of those moments. I was like, yes, this feels fun. Like, this really feels like it's really itching that gaming spot. And I love that. I love it when, I think it was on the second mission, that at the very end of the second mission, or maybe third, basically I think Pavium was retreating from, he was base hopping and he had to set up defense stuff. The very last one where your soldiers had to completely run away and you had to retreat them all from the base. That was really, really cool to me. And I don't know what it is, but 343, if you're listening, I love it. Keep doing that stuff. Really show how dangerous the flood can be and really get intense about the gore, you know. None of this team-rated stuff. If they're going to go all into this narrative that they've already been set up, they can't do it by playing safe but also playing dangerous at the same time. It just doesn't make sense, and they're not going to win that way. 343 Industries needs to take some risk that aren't safe but trying to be new. It doesn't work that way. You got to like go all in. So Atriox, I love it's kind of a cliche with Vortius and Pavium working with Atriox in the cutscenes, but I actually had not anticipated any cutscenes. I don't think we got any cutscenes. I would be very surprised if we got cutscenes. I'd be like, oh shit, I haven't seen it yet for Operation Spearbreaker. So I wasn't very sure about how big Awakening the Nightmare DLC was going to be. I don't think any of us were really prepared for how much we got. I saw some people, they were actually upset about that we didn't get enough cutscenes, but you know, I could see from that perspective. But we gotta we're never gonna be satisfied, guys. Real talk here. We're never gonna be satisfied if we're constantly wanting more. We gotta really be strong and just be like, okay, 343 Industries, you did good here. Because honestly, I don't think anyone out there honestly believes that 343 has done everything wrong with Halo. I mean, surely there's at least one or two things that they're like, okay, well, they kept this the same, they did that, and I'm certainly aware of what 343 Industries has done, good and bad, in my personal opinion, and I acknowledge them for when they do something good and when they do something bad, and I state my opinion and as an opinion, right? But we need to remember that, look, thank you, 343. Thank you for bringing the flood back. Thank you for setting up this narrative, and thank you for the cutscenes. I did not anticipate this, and I didn't really expect much of anything to come to us during this big dry spell that we have with Halo. I think dry spell is. Yes, I said dry spell. So yeah, no, it is cool that they had the cutscenes in there with Pavium and Vortius, and as cliche as it was, it's a good filler. I'm just really excited to see what they're doing with Halo 6, because again, I made a 36-something minute video talking about why Halo 6 may be the best game ever. It very well may be. It is looking to be a very cool, I think it's going into a cool direction, the Halo universe, an interesting one anyway. They can make it or break it, but with what they have set up so far, especially in Awakening the Nightmare, which I made a video about that too, I think it really sets up some very interesting possibilities for Atriox, Pavium, and Vortius, and the Infinity, escaping Cortana, the Flood returning. What's Cortana gonna do? Is she gonna blow the Halo rings? Is she gonna need to capture Chief first? How's Chief going to react to all this, especially with him talking to Halsey again? I really, really want to see a cutscene where Master Chief is talking to Halsey about the flood. I mean, that would be just dope. Or how Dr. Halsey might be able to defeat Cortana, since there's so much possibility there. I mean, Cortana was created from the brain tissue of Dr. Halsey, and she knows so much about foreigner technology, she might be able to stop Cortana, and there's just so many different possibilities that could happen in Halo 6, and there's no way 343 can answer and fulfill all of it, because I think they're trying to do more of like a episodic approach. They may have changed that because of Halo 5's feedback, because so many people didn't like what they did with Halo 5, which I'm thinking was an episodic approach instead of like a full story, beginning to finish kind of thing. But anyway, yes, Vortius and Pavium, those are cool characters. I would have really liked, if there was anything I could change in the DLC, it would be more like comic relief, you know, and especially going back to that original point where 343 has been keeping this mood of darkness and seriousness and stuff. They really need a comic relief, especially in the mainline story, especially with like Master Chief talking about death or in being man or machine and doing all this stuff with Agent Locke. It seems a little bit too heavy, and that's one of the things about, if you guys ever seen Breaking Bad, I remember when I watched the whole series, I was like, I think I was depressed when I watched it, because the whole series was just so dark and so serious. And I know that's an art style, but I would say keep away from that with Halo, because Halo has always had comic relief, even in the Master Chief storyline. I mean, Cortana says lots of funny, witty lines that are almost inappropriate, and there's grunts running away from him, screaming and stuff, and it's fun. You know, there's ways, there's an approach on balancing the story, and I think a good story is balance. And I think 343 Industries needs more comic relief, especially when they do things like this. This isn't really a complaint as much as it is like constructive criticism. I think what they should have done with Vortius and Pavium is that they should have had Vortius be a little bit more, I may be forgetting parts of the story, because I did play the whole story campaign gameplay, but I really would have enjoyed Vortius to be, can you imagine if Vortius was a grunt? No, if Vortius was more funny, like if he had more comic relief, because it looked like he was sort of leaning in that direction, but not really. I mean, he wasn't very serious with what was going on, and eventually, you know, he was regretful about what happened and stuff, and it just, I don't know. There's a lot of opportunity wasted there for comedy, and I think that would be a great way to balance the story. I mean, especially with the narrative, the dark narrative that I think Frank O'Connor and a couple other people are setting up for the story. So yeah, final thoughts from this. Oh yeah, I talked about the new flood forms. Those are really cool. Be sure to check that video out too. Conclusion. So the conclusion is, final thoughts. What was the best and worst of it all? And what can 343 take away from this? The best of all of this is quite simply the Flood returning. The Flood cutscenes, the Flood gameplay, showing the Flood is back, and teasing a Gravemind in it too. The worst of it all, I would have to say, maybe they could have done better with the story with Pavium and Vortius being brothers, because again, it seemed cliche. There wasn't enough comic relief, and there should have been a little bit more depth to the story, I think. But it was also a really good way of setting up the Flood, bringing the Flood back for any Halo fan to understand, even if they don't know much about the lore. I think it was a fairly simple way. Also, one thing I really loved about the story was how it showed, like, the Banished were kind of set up in Halo Wars 2 as being these really strong, formidable foes. I mean, they're lethal, really. I mean, they fought off the Banished, or I mean, they fought off the Covenant, and then seeing the Flood actually fight with the Banished really knocked them down a peg. In my book anyway. I was like, oh, wait a minute. See, no, look, they can still get their ass kicked by the Flood. No one can really tussle with the Flood, you know, and that's the best part, to see that Atriox, maybe, this is just speculation here, but I talked about this in a video a couple days ago, was that maybe Atriox is thinking, oh shit, maybe I might die from the Flood, or maybe this might kill my faction, or something like that. And to see somebody that's set up to be such a warrior, such a tough guy, such a, you know, oh, look at this brute with no flaws, so intelligent, such a leader, it would be so cool to see him, because I think I read somewhere a long time ago, Master Chief is scared of the Flood. I understand it, bro. I understand. If that's the only thing Master Chief is afraid of, I understand it. But to see Atriox too is afraid of the Flood, see, that makes him real. That grounds him as a real character, and it shows us as the viewers and the players that person, or that brute in this case, has a flaw. He's scared of the Flood, and that's kind of cool, and it kind of makes him much more likable. And that's the same, look, they're making the same mistake with Atriox as they are with Agent Locke, and they've certainly had enough time to work on Agent Locke with the story, I think, at least with Halo 6. But Atriox, I don't want them to make the same mistake as they did with Agent Locke. Atriox has a lot cooler design, in my opinion, than Agent Locke. But these new characters, they have so much potential. And I don't know, maybe, I don't think Atriox should be a comic relief, but he needs to be surrounded by comic relief. Because, man, he has just been so depressing and so dark lately. And yeah, I don't know. Just my thoughts on it. So I hope you enjoyed that portion. That is a pretty good wrap up, I think. So, final thoughts. What can 343 take away from this? You did good 343. You have Mr. HaloFollower's approval. Because you were looking for it the whole time. No. So, it was good. It was great. I probably, with all things considered, I give it a solid 7 out of 10. A good 7 out of 10. I think that's fair enough. And most of that is coming because the Flood are back. But really, if we were to take away the hype from that, it would probably be a 6 out of 10 for me. So yeah, be sure to let me know what y'all think of the campaign. I haven't really asked you guys many questions about what you thought, so be sure to let me know down in the comment section below. What are your thoughts now that you've surely gotten to play Terminus Firefight? I forgot about that. I haven't even talked about that. What are your thoughts about the story? Thoughts about the campaign, the cutscenes, 343's direction, Blur, what they've done with the whole thing? So let me know down in the comment section below. And I think this is a great distraction from Halo 6. It contributes to the story, but at the same time could potentially have nothing to do with Halo 6, which is fantastic for what they're doing with the next Halo game, and I think it makes sense for what it is right now, and we just gotta remember the positives. There's a lot of negatives here, but gotta remember the positives. That's just how I like to live here. So anyway, let's get into the community comments here, guys. First one we have is by Garrett D. Anthleon. He says, I'm not quite sure if someone else has proposed this idea, but what if Cortana reaches out to Atriox, gets him to join her, then gets the Flood to join her as well, perhaps promising that she won't fire the Halo rings, then maybe betraying them and doing so anyway. I feel like that would be pretty damn interesting. I've talked about this many times, though, about how Cortana would likely recruit Atriox because, I mean, maybe Atriox wouldn't allow it, though, because he doesn't want to be under the reign of anyone. I'd imagine he certainly didn't like the Covenant trying to control him. He's certainly not going to bow to Cortana for no reason, but he might. That's the thing. He might do it for power. He might do it for the resources and all that good stuff. Now, I think that Atriox is much more likely to join Master Chief in defeating the Flood and Cortana, because think about it. Atriox, I mean, from what we've been given, he's not just going to bow to Cortana. He's most likely going to contribute towards the fight towards her. And, well, that would be certainly interesting if he didn't. So let's move on to Jasper Mewis. It isn't the fucking season pass, god damn it. So yeah, no, I didn't really expect this to be in the season pass because this is like a whole thing. But as far as season passes go, I think the one for Halo Wars 2 was $20. And we got like all the characters. Like when I logged on to Halo Wars 2 Awakening the Nightmare, I hadn't played the game for a couple months. So it certainly brought up like, ooh, you know, look at all these characters I haven't actually played as yet. So yeah, I certainly enjoyed that, and I understand why it's not in the season pass. I mean, it's like a whole thing, dude. So yeah, I'm willing to give 343 a break on that one. So our next comment is by Midway1942, and he says, so instead of a Halo 3 anniversary or new Halo spinoff game, we're getting a Halo VR game. What a waste. And this was very recently. He has 311 comments, probably now even more. And this was referencing Halo Recruit, what we first talked about in this video. Now, you gotta remember, bro, Midway 1942 and the 300 people that liked this comment, it's not like the Halo 3 anniversary would have took a lot more money and time. I mean, we're talking about like how much time? 40 minutes, 50 minutes of cutscenes animated again and created again in Blur. We're talking about complete like network recreation of the whole system in essence, really. And I'm sure that they already have like the tools to do this, but the thing about Halo 3 Anniversary is it takes a lot more resources, manpower, and time at 343 Industries, or a new Halo spinoff game that would distract from Halo 6 and what they're working on already, which I have such a strong feeling in my gut that they are working on Halo 6 like none other, and they really want this to be good because of Halo 4 and Halo 5. I really have hope for 343 on the next one. But this Halo VR game probably only took about 3 or 4 people, and we're talking about compared to 100 or 200 people working on the other stuff. So yeah, I mean, it's not really much. I mean, they're just messing around, it looks like, on the VR. We're talking about a 5-minute Halo experience here, bro. So it's not like it doesn't make sense to be that upset about it. So Real Faction Piercing Laser says, I was excited until I heard 5 minutes. I'm not getting VR for 5 minutes. VR, the Halo 3 game, you all never made an anniversary version of then we'll talk 343. Okay, maybe I read that wrong. But anyway, so same thing pretty much. Yeah, it's only a 5-minute Halo experience, but you know, what you gonna do? Because I'm just glad that they're messing around with it, and maybe something great might come from it one day. So yeah. Firefly says, time to spend $700 to buy VR. No. So I love it. Yeah, no, like I said, guys, don't buy VR for Halo Recruit. Don't buy it. Don't do it. You're not gonna do it. You're smart. Don't do it. All right. Epic Gameplay says, love your videos, bro. I'm such a huge fan of your channel. Oh, yeah, I forgot. I added some positive comments. Yeah. Well, thank you, man. Thank you for the lovely comment. And Taka Thick, I think. HaloFollower, you should make a topic about how retarded the brothers are. Keep up the good work. Will do, my friend, with the beautiful raccoon. I freaking love raccoons. So, yeah, the brothers are kind of silly, Vortius especially. I think it's really ridiculous that... such a cliche thing, man. Such a cliche thing. Okay, so our last comment is from Nathan Il Williams. He says, something that is often overlooked in terms of why people feel less satisfaction in games such as Halo 5 Guardians as opposed to previous titles is that certain elements that were once present have either been altered or removed entirely from the series. This has affected many games, not just Halo. Factors such as gameplay or story take the brunt of the blame for why there was a lack of enjoyment in the experience, which in this case, in the Halo 5 Guardians story, is a valid relevance. But it is not necessarily the only important factor. In previous Halo titles, players observed various elements of the games that resonated with them and became a core aspect in their experience. Elements such as music, environments, and visual presentation. Personally, I enjoyed the quiet atmosphere and expansive design seen in Halo Combat Evolved and Halo 2, the beautiful and natural appearance of Halo 3, and the dark yet calm mood of Halo 3 ODST, not to mention the amazing soundtrack. These such elements are a large part of why many people love Halo, and many of these elements may not initially be noticeable to many. But once those elements are altered or removed, the experience is changed. An example of this change is present in the art style, which has gone from having a natural, gritty tone to having a glossy, artificial manner. The environments seen in Halo Reach are some of the most impressive to appear in a Halo game, whereas the environments seen in Halo 4 and Halo 5 Guardians often lack in general comparison. We saw various similarities with these elements to recent previous titles such as Halo Combat Evolved Anniversary and Halo 2 Anniversary Campaign and Multiplayer, specifically the environmental design and music. Unfortunately, this is only as a result of product mimicking due to remastering. However, this proves that these elements are not lost or forgotten, but are simply not present currently. In my opinion, these such elements are of specific importance and are a special part of the experience which need to be implemented again somehow in future games. Wow, so that one is good. I saw this one because I saw the replies to it and they were like, oh my gosh, yes, someone upvote this, and I'm glad that he hashtagged Halo Club to it. This is certainly a very interesting comment, but really in short, what Nathan Eel is doing here or talking about here is nostalgia. Basically, people, generally, millions of Halo fans like different aspects of the game, some art style, and then when we played that game, or the Halo games, and we paid special attention to the music, environments, and the senses, our senses were attached to that thing, and basically, I think a lot of us, I know for me, I grew attached to it. I grew an emotional attachment to Halo, the original Halos, because everything I liked about them, I mean, I I kind of surrendered to it. I was like, okay, this is beautiful. This is epic. I wasn't thinking, okay, I didn't have like a previous idea of what Halo was or should be, because there was no previous Halos. I was like, oh my gosh, this is beautiful. This is amazing. And I wasn't judging and comparing. But that's only one aspect of nostalgia, I think, being, insulted upon here. But again, sorry, I'm kind of getting off track here. What Nathan has said here is that certain people find certain things to be Halo related. And pretty much a good portion of what 343 Industries has, well, what made Halo Halo, like even not the small weapon changes even, but like the bigger aspect, the narrative, the entire narrative, which is a great point to wrap up this video with. The narrative of Halo changed entirely. I mean, they made it a grim, dark, and what he said, an artificial manner, whereas before it wasn't that. It certainly had much of a lighter mood to it. And something that wasn't so serious and grim and dead-like. I mean, like the whole narrative on the entire series changed within one game, and technically, I guess, even though there was a couple between. But it's just really disappointing that 343 Industries still hasn't quite realized this, and they haven't quite been able to execute it, because they keep changing everything that made Halo Halo for whatever reason. Maybe to make Halo original or make their series of games original, but whatever it is, they really need to consider what made Halo Halo. And I like what they're doing, going back to the roots of the Flood, but the problem isn't the specifics like the Arbiter or the Flood returning, or having somebody that's like Master Chief that talks, or bringing Cortana back necessarily. I really would have to say it goes a little bit deeper than that, into the music, environmentals, the visual presentation of the entire game, the foundation of what made Halo Halo was, I would have to say, beyond what we saw. As far as characters and weapons go, it would have to be something like the narrative, right? The whole story design, really. So let me know what you guys think about this. I kind of cracked open a couple cans of worms here. So a lot of crazy stuff and fun stuff to talk about. So be sure to let me know what you think about Nathan's comment here and about the other comments. And be sure to share what your own thoughts are about Halo Recruit, the 5-minute VR experience. Are you going to play it? Do you have VR to try it out? I think it comes out October 19th, FYI. And of course, Awakening the Nightmare DLC, be sure to let me know what you think about that in the comment section below. I'm very curious to hear your opinions. And guys, thank you so much for watching. I'm gonna have to wrap that up. This has been a Halo Club episode. So yeah, again, thank you so much for your time. I really do appreciate it. If you watch this whole thing, that is freaking amazing. And you're certainly following us here on HaloFollower, and that's awesome. And if you're already subscribed, be sure to hit that bell notification so you can never miss any more videos. You're always notified, I think, via email, and you can unsubscribe via email, though. It goes through YouTube. So, yeah, anyways, guys, I will see you in the next one. Peace. Later.